Greetings everyone, Justin here from Cool Legion Gaming. Today I have with me Barry, say hi.
Hello.
Eric, say hello.
Hello.
There you go. He listened, you said hi, or you said hello and I said hi. It's going to be a great video already.
I make everyone happy.
Alright, so today we're going to be doing another sit and talk. Now, if you followed the first one, usually we're going to be doing them on specific game systems. This one is going to be a general overall coverage that spans all game systems. Today we're going to be talking about homebrew rules. What that means to us, what exactly they are, pros and cons to them, all that good stuff. This came up in a discussion. I think at any point, gamers have sat around a tabletop while they're playing saying, oh, I wish this rule was this, and I would make it this way, and, you know.
This is stupid, it doesn't work.
Only
this needs to be fixed, this game is broken.
Only the editors and writers of the game systems are always 100% happy with them, and I think that's only in public, what they think of them. And
behind closed doors,
behind closed
totally
doors.
different.
So we're just going to kind of have a brief conversation about homebrew rules and the umbrella of what that is. I'm going to keep referring to them as homebrew rules, but there's a few different categories, in my opinion, that I think we're going to get into talking about here. So first up, we're going to let Barry go first and kind of go down the line here. But what are homebrew rules to you? Like, what does that...
No pressure.
What does that... Yeah, what... When you hear homebrew rules, what categories, what are you thinking about that?
Well, to me, it's about personalizing the experience of a game. In some cases, maybe you want to add some things or delete some things from a game. Maybe you want to make it run faster, slower. Try to customize it to make it more easily teachable to new players. Maybe you really think that these people really enjoy this certain game, but it might be a little bit. You feel like it's a little too convoluted with all the rules that's in there to start off, with the full version of it. So maybe you want to homebrew some things or add or remove some rules and stuff, make things a little easier to teach. Maybe it's fixing rules that you feel are broken. Things you just don't, I mean, there's maybe add new elements to a game, like, example, we used to play a lot of HeroScape years ago, and it's a very basic, watered down rule set, very, very easy war game to learn and play. It's one of the first ones I'd probably teach anyone if they were interested in tabletop war game, just because I have tons of HeroScape, and I still love HeroScape to this day. Modular terrain, beautiful game. But sometimes we would add RPG elements to it. We thought, wow, this works great, but we get sick of, just interacting with each other to play, just to battle each other. We wanted to, like, fight these dragons in the middle of, we used to set up HeroScape, a gigantic set on a pool table, a 4-foot by 8-foot pool table, cover the whole thing. Mountains, rivers, valleys, all kinds of stuff, trees, forests. I had, like, glaciers, everything. And we would set up and, we'd have like an RPG where we'd have to fight the big dragons in the center or something like that, But there's homebrew rules, there's just a vast array of ways you could explain them, and it probably means different things to everyone, but that's some of the stuff that I think about it. So let's kick it over to him. See what he thinks.
I'm going to let Eric go first, so then this way I can just back off.
See, I thought he said, do you remember? He said we're going to work down, like 1, 2, no?
Down to hierarchy. I'm at the very bottom.
Okay, well.
No, but
So we sat in the wrong order. So, anyways, homebrew rules to me are I look at them as a personal balance on a rule system. Sometimes it can be something as simple as, like Barry had said, game designers, they don't always play to everyone's catering. You might have a game system that runs really smoothly in some areas, but then you hit a point and it's like, wow, we're rolling a lot of dice. This is getting bogged down.
It's so monotonous.
Yes. Yeah. Assault. Yeah. I hit you, you hit me, and then it kind of buries into it. A good example of that is Battle Valor. It's a new rule system. I say new, it's within 5 years. But Justin and I have been playing it for a couple years now. It's still the original rule book, and we keep running into instances where we're like, that doesn't make much sense. We'll ask for rules for clarification on the Facebook group, but for now we're going to play it this way, which is kind of streamlined some of the gaming with that one, especially when you're rolling 40 to 60 dice, depending on how many.
It's a very grinding game.
Yes.
And I think that's
mathy, very mathy,
very mathy,
very
yep.
mathy.
Yeah. And
that can suck a lot of fun out of games sometimes. Too much math.
And I think that's a good point I'm going to talk on later in the category here, specifically about that. Not that game system so much, but real quick, when you have game systems that are highly supported, we talk about the big populars, of course, everyone knows the 40Ks, the GW, Bolt Actions, the Flames of War. Those games are pretty highly supported by their companies, but when you get into some of the secondary game systems, where they'll put a book out and maybe in 5-6 years you'll see an FAQ and maybe they'll start fixing stuff, and I think that's when you see a lot where homebrew rules really start to shine a little bit. Yep. So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
You almost have to for some of these games to keep them, realistically fun, and working well.
So, now I get to just hit on their points. This is why I do it this way.
He cheats.
Same thing. Like when I
cheats.
Very true.
If that was the case, I would win more. I'm a bad cheater.
Maybe you're just a horrible cheater.
Crazy. All right, so I think that. So when we're talking homebrew rules, to me the categories are any rules changes or add-ons or takeaways to a game system, to an original rule set that's out there. Of, hey, you know what? I don't like this rule. Let's take it away. And I'm going to refer a lot to Bolt Action because that's the primary game that I play right now. But the Jam Turret rule, everyone forgets that. We're going to take that out of the rule system. Just forget about it. Or maybe tweaking a rule a little bit to make it a little more fun or thematic or play a little bit better. And then another category to me is besides for those tweaks is creating specific scenarios. And I think it shines a lot, especially in historical games, when we want to recreate this battle.
Like I was saying about RPG.
Yep, exactly. RPG
elements in a game that's not considered an RPG game.
Right.
Try to more fluff and more fun.
Add more thematic to it. You want to play
adventure.
a specific scenario. I think then you get into those home rules of okay, they had this equipment or they had this situation going on. Let's figure out some rules to that. And then another category to talk about, and I know you and I have dabbled in this before. I don't know so much of you, and you and I have never talked about it, but creating your own rule sets for lines of miniatures that are already out there, right? There's a lot of great companies out there that make miniatures. Maybe there's no rules that really fit how you want to use them. First thing that comes to mind is, there's some really cool companies out there you've bought a lot of zombie apocalypse stuff for.
Yep.
There's lots of rule sets out there, but maybe it doesn't quite hit the spots that you want it to hit, so you're going to create a whole rule set around that. The same thing you did with your, was it the 6mm modern, I guess it kind of
yeah.
You created you had some miniatures, you wanted to play something, you filled that niche of what you were looking for. So, that really also counts into me, I feel, as homebrew rules of, we're going to create this rule set. And that could go as far as you and your buddies playing at your local group, or it could go as far as you show it off at a convention, someone likes it, and next thing you know, you got a published book. I mean, really, if you look at some of these smaller companies, that's how they start. I think that kind of covers what we consider homebrew, and the categories on that. And you already kind of touched on this, but let's go in a little more detail about why people create homebrew rules, why they create rule tweaks. What are some of the reasoning, thought process behind it, based off of our humble but expert opinions.
Experts.
So who
Loosely used.
Yeah. Yep. Should I go first since I went last time?
Sure.
So for me, where I see a lot of times people are making rule tweaks or homebrews is they feel something's missing from the rules. A specific way to play a certain unit or I guess unit or army or force or whatever it may be, or a specific thing that's missing kind of with rules of, when we assault, I really think we should have this in there too as a thematic type of thing. And I think
maybe in Bolt Action, the machine gun teams could be a little better.
Yeah, that's going to be talked about. That's going to be talked about quite often for me. I think anyone who plays Bolt Action will have that conversation.
A nerve.
Big one. We talked about that last night. I'll tell you that's a good one. But also, you get bored. Sometimes people get bored of playing a game. If you're in a small group, your gaming club only consists of a few people. You're constantly playing the same people over and over again. Little Stewie is going to show up on a tabletop.
What?
So yeah. Sometimes you might create those different.
I'm a power gamer.
Power. The meta. It's all about the meta. But you're going to create those rules to kind of mix things up a little bit. So, hey, let's see what happens when we play this. And I think you guys both hit on it too. Of there are certain rules out there that just muddle the game and take a long time to add to it.
Yep.
You know, I love really in-depth games, but sometimes the bookkeeping that happens off the table or the amount of tokens that end up being on a table, so people
It needs to at least flow well.
Right.
If it's going to be a really, really, don't want to say convoluted, but a really in-depth, really intricate game system, it at least has to flow well and be fun while it's doing it.
and the intricacy has to matter.
Exactly.
To put stuff in there that's just going to slow things down.
Just to put it in there,
you see
just
a lot
to
of
make
that
the
stuff.
rule book bigger or
Yeah,
something.
you know, it's like, you know what, we're gonna skip
swear
that
I
phase.
think
We're
that
gonna skip
happens
this.
sometimes.
Yeah. So, you know, for me, those are kind of the 2 main points, 3 points in there, I think, of why you see people do some homebrews.
Cool.
You guys got any other thoughts, add-ons, Eric?
I mean, some of it can be, you know, just like what you said. Something's missing from the game, something's not right, something's not there. But at the same time, you're not getting the experience you want. You go to a game, and think of it like this. All of us, we spend hours and hours building and painting and getting ready for a game.
Not
we
to
schedule
mention
the money.
How much this goes in little tiny little plastic things.
You're playing for like an hour or two. You want to really monopolize and capitalize on that hour or two of gaming. And if you walk away after like a really muddled rule, like a great example, and Justin, you're going to remember this one, Defilers. I used to run a Chaos Army, and there was a guy that said, you know, looking in the rule book, my interpretation, I remember this, and this is how long ago, like 3rd, 4th edition.
It's been a while. It's been a long time.
All walkers can fire all weapons. A Defiler had a battle cannon, and they had Reaper cannons and everything else. But everybody tried to play it off as a tank, and a Lehman Russ at the time couldn't fire its main battle cannon and all its other weapons.
Yep, there's one or the other.
And I remember I had 2 Defilers in my list, beautiful army, all painted up.
And
I
a
got
murder bus.
Oh, it was hilarious. It was like 40 corn berserkers. It was awesome.
In a transport that you finally put enough wounds on to blow up, but by then it was right in your face, and the berserkers just jumped out, and you just pack up your toys and go home.
It was a fun list to play. Just not
for the
again.
opponents. Yeah. For him,
But
Not when you're playing an IG gun line. They get murdered.
But when I started
opponents
like
had no fun.
playing people that they sat there and said, "Oh no, in the rules this."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look, can we at least interpret this and say it's a Defiler, it's a one-off? Can we homebrew it? Can we just
Yep.
and it was-
Interpretation.
Right,
That's
the
the
key.
right.
That's
And
the
where
word,
homebrew
interpretation.
comes in as interpretation.
Yes.
So that's how I think a lot of gamers start to look at why they need to create that. They need to bridge that gap that's occurring, or that you know, they're feeling gypped. Like I don't want to walk away from a game being like, I spent all this time, because the worst thing I can do, I spent all this time, go home and put everything in the closet and don't touch it again.
This army sucks.
Yeah, what's right? Well,
What did I do this for?
If I can't play it the way I thought it was intended to play.
And I play a lot of different scale armies too. I'm not just 28 mil. I'm not just historical. I play like some 6 mil, as Justin said earlier, 15. Some of those you have to create new rules. So
Yeah. I'm gonna
go ahead.
point on that real quick too, because like you said about you know, those rule tweaks or kind of to streamline things. You know, like I said about, you know, you create a whole new rule set. Because you want to do zombie apocalypse, but nothing else works out there. But maybe there's a game system that 75% fills what you want to do, and you know what? Let's just add this couple other things.
It just
because
needs
it's gonna
that little
make it,
push.
Yeah,
Now it's great.
This. I'm going to take this out.
Why didn't
and
they do
this.
that originally?
Right.
No one thought of this? Yeah.
To me, it's going to hit both the pros and cons when we start talking about that, or why we get into that. But I think that's why you see a lot of people that do those kind of things. What else you got?
Why people create home brew rules and make rule tweaks? You know, a lot of the same things you guys said, so I'm just going to be redundant here and just repeat things. Speed up a game, maybe, like we talked about. Things are too just, you know, it's just, we need to speed this game up a little bit and maybe change these rules so that we can get this game finished, still have fun. Maybe it'll make it even more fun, you know, so we're not dwelling on little tiny fifth nuances that maybe we don't enjoy as much, which, you know, you want the game as fun as possible. You're putting out all this money, like he had said, and, you know, you want to at least enjoy, you know, the game for the best you can. Maybe there's some redundant rules, like I just said, this doesn't make any sense. Like this, why is this in here? Improve the overall gameplay, just make it smoother, faster, or maybe slow it down. Maybe some games are too fast. You know, they play a little too fast and there's not enough meat there, but you think, oh, this quick card game, this little filler game, Maybe it could be a little better if we added this step in there too. You know, maybe that. You know, just personalize the experience for your play group that you're playing with, and try to make everyone as happy as they can be, because that's what it's all about, enjoying a game and trying to make people happy and have a good time. Maybe something's missing. I think I covered that already. And just maybe sometimes smooth out the flow of a game. You know, maybe it kind of just gets, you know, caught at a certain place and everybody's trying to figure out this one rule. And I'm like, well, everyone has a different interpretation of this. I mean, the rule's there, but it's kind of arbitrary, and no one can really decide, you know, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, maybe we should just, if it's not that important, maybe we can get by that and get the game going so that we can move on and have fun with the rest of the game night before we're all out of time and then we don't have another month to play each other and see each other. So that's pretty much it for, you know, why I think homebrew rules exist.
Yeah, and I think what could fall in the category of a homebrew and a rule tweak is just like you said, is, you know, we've all been at a game table before, like you said, with these arbitrary rules where it's like, you interpret it this way, I interpret it this way. We're going to roll a dice, D6 it.
Yep.
1 through 3, it's this way. 4 through 6, it's this way. You've just tweaked the rule.
Yep.
1 to 5, it's Justin's way.
Yeah. 1 to 6.
I must roll a lot of 6s because it never goes my way. But yeah, I think
it's Justin's way.
So, and it's funny because I play middleman quite a bit on this, so I want to talk a little bit about pros and cons, because everything that's on my pro list can also be swayed to my con list, I think, in some aspect.
Yeah, probably.
And again, a lot of this is interpretation of how people play, and I think with that, let's lead into the pros of creating them. What's a good outcome of
I mean, we
these?
hit some of it already.
Yeah, and we've touched on a lot of stuff already. But is there anything else like that you could think that jumps to me? You know, for me, like I said, it's you're adding new elements, and you said this, and we've all said this already. But adding new elements to a rule system that's out there. You know, there are some games that the creator's intention was to, and there are some rule sets out there where it's very much a streamlined, real fast break rule set where the editors are outright saying, the creators are outright saying, you guys figure out how you want to play this. That's homebrewing and tweaking a game system that's out there. There's some game systems out there that may streamline, because we all know that shooting and assaulting, you know, two of the biggest phases in any game system really, can get really muddled based off of modifiers and situations and what happens because I clip this little bit of terrain and what happens in this, and so you may some rule sets out there
Is
go, you know what,
chip on the asteroid or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you touch that asteroid?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I bumped it last time, so
close.
technically it should be here.
But if you did, you know, take damage. If you didn't, then it's going to change the whole game. You know, a millimeter. You know, it happens.
So I think, you know, some rule sets that keep things dumbed down for that purpose. So maybe you might actually add some steps into an assault or shooting because you want to kind of pro that up or change it up a little bit.
HeroScape's another good example of that. It's you know, very, very basic attack and defense. You know, you're just rolling dice and hoping to hit and hoping to roll shields when you need them, and when you don't roll the right, if you roll shields during an attack or hits during when you need shields, there's not much you can do. There's no dice mitigation or anything. So we kind of added some opportunities for dice mitigation to try to help spice the game up a little more, make it a little more strategic and stuff like that, which, you know, this was before I really introduced to a lot of the other games, and now that I'm playing a lot of other tabletop games that do the same exact thing, I'm like, oh my god, we've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, now I'm like, well, we weren't far off then, you know?
Yeah.
And I've seen real tweaks go as far as, you know, you have a game system maybe D6, but maybe now you're going to add, someone's going to switch it to D10 because now you can add some more modifiers. Or I've seen people that go, you know what, we're going to use D6 for the inexperienced type troops, and then the veterans are going to get to use the D10s because they have a better chance of hitting. And so even adding that kind of stuff really, I think, can really make a game a lot more interesting and fun.
Yep.
And then, of course, I've already touched on it, but, you know, it lets you play around with new ideas. It lets you play around with new lists for specific scenarios. You know, Eric and I think you've been to a couple, but we're big convention goers. You know, HMVS.
Well, I mean, I've been to Gen Con.
Yeah, you've been.
I played in a world championship at Gen Con for a game and everything.
Well, I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, no, it was years ago. You know, I can barely remember it. You know? It was fun though.
Yeah.
It was.
But you know,
I bombed. But
You win.
it was fun.
It was
and
fun.
I got a free trip to Gen Con and everything to play in it.
There you go.
You know? Dreamblade.
But conventions, conventions are where you see that kind of stuff shine, where people are trying new scenarios and really interpreting game systems to how they want to play it and sharing their ideas.
And I think at conventions, GMs have a tendency, they want the game to play a certain way so you have a certain experience.
Yes.
So they will actually take a rule set, homebrew a couple rules, because we've seen it where we walk around and there's little cards on the table that are saying, if you played this game, this is a different rule in this game. This is not like, or even in the description of the game.
Yeah, when you go to sign up for it, it'll say modified rules.
Which sometimes those are the games you seek out because you want to see how they tweak the rules.
Right. Because, like you said, it's when you're sitting around a table with 8 people, it's about the experience. And I'm not going to go to a convention and spend 4 hours to play a large bolt action game because I know the system. But if I see it's some type of modified rule where they're playing a specific scenario, I'm probably going to poke my head in and see what's going on.
Yeah, worth a shot to try to learn something new, or maybe
Or
try things in a different way. Maybe it's more fun.
Right, learn something and go, oh, you know what? Our club struggles with that too. I'm going to take that back.
Take it back.
We've seen that a lot when we've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I have under this is like we talked about interpretation of that dice roll off. Well, I read it this way. Well, I think it's actually meant to be this way. Well, if you guys just say, yes, the arbitrary rules. We talked about that before the camera went. But if you decide ahead of time, look, this rule isn't that great, we're playing it this way. So if it comes up, this is how it is. We're not going to have a 20-minute discussion of, well, I think it reads this, but if you reference this page, it could possibly mean this. I played a game of Warlords of Erewhon last night, and we ended up looking at 5 different pages to reference different rules to see if there was something contrary because we couldn't quite figure out the interpretation of how the rule was supposed to go. And we ended up saying, you know what, we're playing it this way for the game. Which, by the way, you'll see that video posted on our page here.
They rolled a 6-sided dice. 1 to 6, he was correct. So
actually, that's a D10 system. So
you changed that too.
Yeah.
It was D6 after they were done.
Yeah. D2.
That's a coin, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, and I mean, are there any other pros? So I think.
I mean, one of the key ones that always comes to me with a pro for homebrews. This is not geared to the metagamer. This is geared towards the casual gamer. So the person who win, lose, or draw, they have a good time. Which metagamers the same way. I mean, I'm not dissing anybody, but
I'm a sore loser.
They're
I try not to be.
We here at Collegiate love and respect all types of gamers.
But the key to that is that you want to enjoy the game. So and I'm a laid back gamer. I'm extremely I'll even generate, like Justin said, I've even generated rules for dungeon crawls for Mordheim because I realized when we were playing a Mordheim campaign, we had a couple players that were getting decimated and. Yeah. It was like, oh God, so and so is going to really strip away, and be far out of the pack.
Losers, so be winners.
So we ended up generated a dungeon crawl, and I had to basically create a homebrew set of rules for it. And then we realized actually you don't need Mordheim to play it. You could just play it as a fun game. You could play it by yourself.
Well, you could really, with a little bit of tweaking, interpret them into a Frostgrave campaign.
Right.
I still want to play that.
I think it's funny he said that because I almost said in the intro that the reason why I had these two guys on, and it's not a negative or anything. I've known these guys for years. Eric is much more of the laid-back basement gamer. Likes to tweak things. Likes to play with rules. Likes to create that kind of stuff. You've had experience in tournaments as well, but I think it's safe to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've done a lot more tournament circuits with a whole lot of different stuff. And not that he's a meta gamer, although I've muttered that under my breath sometimes playing him.
No, I do. I've done a lot of tournaments.
More of the,
a lot of game tournaments.
Much more of the
systems.
Competitive sense.
Very competitive. Too competitive sometimes. But I'm getting better as I get older.
It's tempering you.
It's Jealous Gray. Oh, it's from gaming.
If we verbally abuse him enough,
it's from losing. Oh, I'm a power gamer. I always try to find, not loopholes, but I always try to maximize and minimize everything.
Well,
it starts out as, hey, I'm just going to have fun with this.
Yeah.
And then I play Blood Bowl. I'm like, these dice are horrible. Everything's ruined.
Even the laid-back gamers find loopholes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm going to tangent here because you got to always have some tangents. For being the likes everything laid out and has a set forth set of plans, and I'm gonna not power game, but I have a purpose for everything. Don't play goblins, dude.
But I made such a beautiful goblin team. It's
The
all custom.
wackiness of like.
I love the ball and chain.
You might as well just walk to another table and say, "Hey, what should this guy do?" And let him give you an answer because that's the bloody goblins, man.
Yeah, goblins are their own animal, literally.
Yeah. No, they're their own.
The very first.
Aren't they mushrooms?
The very first league game, it's funny because the very first league game I've ever played in a League of Blood Bowl was against him, and he played goblins. I had elves because I heard elves were
You
good.
played true goblins. Like, there was nothing.
He
else. There
played
were no trolls or
goblins.
anything.
The only thing he had was a ball and chain, correct? That was it.
I think I had a
Yeah,
ball
and
and
the
chain.
ball and chain hit nothing.
Yeah.
Not one elf, and he died.
You didn't
He
care
offed
when your
himself.
stuff died because you had 20
And,
more goblins on the sideline waiting.
And plenty more replacements.
Yeah.
good stuff.
So I'm like, wow, those goblins aren't too good. What do I do?
later?
Couple of years later, I made it. I 3D printed and made an entire goblin team. Beautiful looking team.
Yeah,
and I love playing it because
They look
such
really
flavor.
good when they're laying down on the board.
And they usually are. They're scattered all over the place.
But that's exactly what
Dead
it is.
goblins.
They're a team that you don't mind losing with.
Right.
Because it's fun.
Well, some don't.
They're a team that I don't have to make excuses when I lose. That's why I play them so much. I'm like, well, it's goblins.
You expected me to win?
You think I was going to win? And if I win, I'm like, take that! You lost to goblins!
So now you see what type of player he is.
Power gamer.
So
Who was 2 thumbs up power gamer? This guy.
yeah. So I think every positive has a negative. So I want to talk a little bit about the cons on this because anyone watching this video, if you're just getting into gaming and you're like, oh, we're a local club, we're new and we've been toying around with it. These are some big warning signs when it comes to, I think, making your own homebrew rules. Who wants to go first? Barry, you want to go first?
I guess. So the cons of doing it can really impact game dynamics, I think, for certain games. If you start fiddling with rules that in a game that is pretty much streamlined already, but you're just doing it to do it maybe, or you do it for some other reason, but it kind of may really have a negative impact on that game and it just doesn't work anymore. Now you just broke the whole system,
Yep.
And then people start not enjoying themselves
You
and
end up
stuff,
playing a
and you
different game.
start going instead of, let's see, some players more than others might dislike that you're changing rules. They're like, well, what are you talking about?
Rules.
It's right here.
In the rules.
Why did I pay $40 for this rule
I
book?
play MTG. I play MTG, and there's no other game. No, I joke. I was a big MTG player back in the day. I think that's where all my problems came from.
You were a nerd. You're a nerd.
Yeah, I still am. Or past tense. It's present tense, buddy. I'm doing a video about games and talk about nerds.
What else would you do?
Okay,
on a weird
nerd.
night?
Join the club.
Proud member.
Let's see. Like I said, tournament-style players are going to usually hate changes. They want to be, to the
Tournament
book.
ready all
I
the
mean,
time.
it's there. It's set in stone. We're not changing anything because So a lot of people like that are going to really, really hate homebrew anything. Like I said, it opens up a window for disaster and some mechanics, changing entire mechanics and stuff could ruin a game. It can cause some confusion. And where does it end? I mean, you start with this one little tiny rule tweak, and then one of your buddies are like, well, instead of that and this, now we're going to do this and this and this.
Well, we had
okay,
that also plays well with this.
Yeah, maybe we should change.
Slope.
Maybe we should change this too. And all of a sudden, you're not even playing the same game anymore. You're like, well, what are we doing? Like, we just ruined everything. We got to start all over again. There goes game night. But that's some of my cons.
I think you're just looking at my notes because I think you hit on almost everything. Just because mine's typed, I can read it.
That's why you don't write your notes down.
Great minds. Great minds.
Devolved over.
I actually wrote notes. This is the first time I've ever.
Yeah,
Since I was in college, is the first thing
I was planning on busting on Barry
used a
because
pen
he always
for.
shows up without notes, and this time he showed up with notes and Eric didn't.
Yes.
So, but competitive compared to relaxed.
That's right.
Got to have everything written down in line.
It'll be perfect. It'll be perfect, or else.
What do you got? Because I know you toyed around.
Crit.
You've toyed around with creating homebrew rules and stuff before, and where do you see some cons and when you get into that kind of stuff in Rule Suite?
So there's really two big areas of cons that I always run into, and it's something that I've had to learn myself to keep in mind tweaking rules. The first big one is if I'm teaching a new player to play a game, I cannot do the homebrew rules with them because it will confuse them. It's like it gets ingrained. That one homebrew rule is what they cling to. So they might go from
minor as it is.
Yep, they might go from our game group to another game group, and then it's all of a sudden now you got game group versus game group. And that's not what, because the new person doesn't understand, hey, it's a homebrew rule. Now, we will sometimes explain to them if they're watching a game. So, like, Blood and Plunder is a great example.
Yeah. Those scoop guys, they ruin everything when they come around here.
With Blood and Plunder, it's a good rule book, but there are some areas where, like, terrain plays a key part.
It's very vague in that game.
And it's very vague. So, we actually had to sit down and almost take, like, a 40K Games Workshop approach to it. With our terrain rules, so that's something I always have to keep in mind. The other thing is, if you're going to tweak a rule, you cannot tweak it just for yourself, and that tends to happen when you hear about game rules, like somebody tweaking a rule. So when you,
well, what if it benefits me?
Right. So what
that's
you
a big one I have.
What you have then is especially, and I'm going to use Bolt Action as a great example here. Bolt Action's got a whole slew of books. Their main rule book, awesome. Yeah. Covers just about everything that you need. You can play a full game out of it. Now let's start throwing in army-specific books.
Yeah, and then you get the theater books.
Now you got theater books. Now, you do a homebrew rule with that. You got to look at all those books to make sure you're not overriding something that the game designers had in mind. I know there's a few times you've asked me, because I've got a bunch of the books at home.
Yeah.
Hey, can you look this up at home for me quick? And sometimes I'm not at home; I'm at work. So
I don't know why he doesn't carry all of his books with him.
He's just like at work.
Let
me just pull out this.
He just happens to have like two of the books that I don't have out of the entire collection. So.
On this person at work.
But then you really have to think about that. Like, are you breaking another rule out of a continuance book? Or are you only doing it for yourself?
Right.
And that's where some of the homebrew issues come in, like a con. And like I said,
I need help with my goblins as much as possible. I don't care what he says.
But and
they all have block.
Yeah. And those two are like the key things. I mean, now it's great when you can get models, like you 3D printed stuff. When you can get models that there are no rules for, but you want to throw it in. Historical gaming used to kind of be that way, but now I'm finding rules for rule companies are making rules for things they're not planning on making models for, because they know someone else is going to make them.
There's plenty of 28mm World War II companies out there.
Print and play.
I mean, Too Fat Lardies.
Lots of print and play stuff available.
Too Fat Lardies is known for that. I mean, they have great game systems of Chain of Command, Ain't Been Shot Yet, Mom, What a Tanker, all this stuff. They were a rule set because, and we discussed this in a Bolt Action thing, because don't put me on the spot now because I can't, but I can name 5-10 different 28mm gaming companies. Why put a drop in the ocean? It's not going to matter.
Right.
So yeah, and I mean, these guys hit I think on the big things, and so it's funny because when we do these sit and talks, the plan is we have a format, but we don't discuss ahead of time while we have thoughts because we want it to be a fluid conversation. And I think the four main bullets I have here have already been hit, but I'm going to touch a little bit on from my point of view is I have here, everyone wants to fix what they feel is broken, which often leads to what and how they play. So, if you're playing a specific army and you don't like a rule because it hinders you in some way, well, we're going to create this rule. And like you said, now you're getting into meta playing where you're creating rules specifically for you.
And that's funny because I'm probably the most competitive out of three of us, and I didn't even think about that aspect of it. I totally didn't even think about that. Maybe because I accidentally do it.
And we're going to talk. I'm going to talk briefly.
Subconsciously.
The elephant in the room when we're talking about bolt action.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, well, the elephant in the room when we're talking about bolt action is medium machine guns. Anyone who plays bolt action watching this would probably agree that medium machine guns are broken in the system.
Yeah,
I don't want to say broken. They don't live up to their points value and what they can do.
They're just not.
just take enough soda.
They're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun, and they can be.
They're very thematic in some things,
they're thematic,
but they shouldn't. There's a lot. I know a lot of people. Juggernaut Podcast is a huge podcast out of the UK, Australia area. They've already homebrewed that when they do their tournaments and everything. That they specifically say that machine guns automatically get 1 pin when you're shooting at a unit, whether you hit or not, and then an additional pin if you do a wound. Machine guns are broken. I think anyone will agree on that. But I've heard more conversation about how they need to fix medium machine guns from German players and U.S. players. Because German players get an extra shot with their machine gun, U.S. players can take up to 3 medium machine guns.
I'm a US
Me
player.
and my little Finns don't really care about the medium machine gun that
Finns.
much because they have plenty of other sneaky stuff coming from Soviet players. So it doesn't really affect me as much as that's not at the top of the rules of something I would fix. But I know a lot of people that would maybe bend some rules, and not. It's not always intentional. It's because it's based off of their play style, their army, what they have that they
Being
may
a power
see
gamer, I just see the medium machine guns, and I have 3. I'm like,
No, you just
get out of here.
snipe
Yeah,
them.
just get out of here. More squads I need.
But I think you have a lot of that, and then that leads into, like you said about you can end up playing a totally different game. We're going to tweak this to fix this. Well, now we're going to do this to do this. Now we're going to do this to this.
This isn't right,
and people walk up to you and go, "Oh, what game are you playing?" "Oh, we're playing Bolt Action." Well, you're using 28 mil World War II figures, but I have no clue what you guys just did
really
that entire last time.
Right.
Yeah.
It
How far is your shot now? Oh,
Right, you completely changed.
You're playing 6mm, but you're shooting 3 feet. Yeah. What? Yeah.
And like you said, so when you bounce around to different clubs, if you're playing in your same group of 5 people and you're meeting at your buddy's basement every night, or every weekend to play games, you can tweak rules. But now you go somewhere else to a different game club, and they have their own set of rules of how they play things, and we have our set of rules, and you end up
that's our way.
you end up very quickly, and you hear the term meta a lot, metagaming a lot in tabletop gaming. What's the meta? What's the popular thing? What's working in areas? I can listen to podcasts and see things on Facebook from people out in Midwest, and I can, without even telling what armies they play, I can guess based off of the rule tweaks that they want to do.
Yep.
Okay.
Because they're forming that meta, and they're forming those player packs of how to do things.
Specific for their
for what you see.
their
benefit. Yep.
I know out there they like the Katusha. Is a big thing out Midwest. So, of course the caddy. Here's the little Stewie.
What?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So good.
And then the other thing too is it really does confuse you. You get into those issues, and I've run bolt action tournaments before, and I specifically had this happen. You get into arguments over the raws, the rules as written, because I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I had somebody try to do something, and their opponent's like, "Hey, can't do that." Well, that's how we play it in our club. That
You thought it was me. No, it wasn't me.
And that's the key phrase there. That's how we do it in our club.
Yeah, well, that's how we do it when we play. We don't care about that.
Right.
Rules are rules. And again, if you're staying in your little club and you're much more relaxed basement gamers, and you're never planning on playing anywhere else, sure, go ahead. But then what's going to happen is you're going to go back to what we talked about before. While you create rules, you're going to get very bored with playing the same people. You're going to start tweaking stuff. You're going to end up playing something completely different. So it's a vicious cycle in my opinion.
Tournaments, I mean, you can.
gotta leave
Tournaments
it
are
at
a
the
whole
door.
other thing. Most of the time, 99% of the time, rules as written. Unless it's up front, way ahead of time, discussed, written in the for the sign-up sheets,
Tournament
whatever. This is the way it's going to be. No, it's going to be the way that the rules are written for the most part for most tournaments, because it's a whole different animal when you go tournaments. People don't want brew things popping up like, oh yeah, like he said,
And
we
as-
do this, no.
And
Well,
as a
this is
TO,
not how we do it at the
I don't
tournament.
even want to get into rules tweaking, because if I'm running a tournament as a Sarge for Warlord Games, and I'm running a bolt action tournament, and I got some Co-Legion guys playing, and I put out the tournament pack and I say, we're going to allow this to do it. Then you bring up the question of, well, does your club play it that way, and are you helping your club members that are in that tournament? So you don't even favoritism. You don't
Yeah, you
even
can't
want to
have
get
that.
into that
That's
as a
not fun.
TO.
That's no fun.
I joke all the time in my tournaments of, if you have a rules question, you're going to do 2 things. You're going to read the rule book and find the answer. If that doesn't work, you're going to call me over and we're going to flip a coin or roll a die, because that's what you're going to do anyway if you can't discuss it.
Yep.
The rule book is there for a reason.
And the coin flip has always been used, as far as I know, for almost
Oh,
every game
yeah,
system.
so-
If things can't be,
Decided upon.
Decided.
Because again, as we
rationally
discussed,
and
as we discussed
nicely.
earlier, there
Yeah.
could be some what's your word that you like to use? Arbitrary rules.
Arbitrary rules.
That that
Looking at
that
you,
lead to those
Gaslands.
questions. Yes, we had a very.
I love Gaslands. It's fun. It's a fun game. I enjoy it for what it is, but there's just so much arbitrariness. We're playing. I'm like, well, how's this supposed to work now? What is the rule? It doesn't really
See,
say.
Gaslands is another one of those that I think the rules were rushed so fast. There's gaps.
Exactly.
He brought up a really good point of you're playing with Matchbox cards. Most of the time it's Matchbox. Other people have different things.
This.
But if you have a little speeder compared to a truck, how are they using the same template? You're getting more movement out of that truck.
Very arbitrary. It's like, well, then maybe we should just have you move by your axle instead of your bumper, or well.
But then they're playing a weird sci-fi
Oh, well, did you
vehicle that their
forget to
axle's
do it?
back.
Which way to do it this time? Well, I don't know. I thought you said to do it this way. Well, no. Now everything's arbitrary. We don't know what to do. Yeah.
That's a good point, because I've seen people with Gaslands, and I'm going to kind of dwell on this a little bit. People with Gaslands have started using basing.
And we were talking about that. That makes the most
car
sense.
is
It would
this size,
fix
the
so
truck
much
is this
stuff.
size.
Right.
Yeah, that would
But-
fix so much stuff.
Then you run into, what if they buy an offshoot Matchbox, like the little Chinese, whatever? It doesn't fit on it, or it's so if it's smaller, that's great, but if it's bigger, well, now you run into an issue, or someone has a hover car.
I played a lot of
Yeah.
X-Wing, and X-Wing, Gaslands reminded me a bit of X-Wing with the movement
Shows the
templates and stuff
templates
like
go,
that,
yeah.
okay?
Yep.
In X-Wing, you have certain set size templates, bases. So once you get to learn how to manipulate those bases on the table, you get to be a pretty decent player, because you can pretty much pick out, within reason, how close you're going to be to something. If you're going to land on an asteroid,
Still
if you're
always
going to hit
the
another
asteroids.
ship, well, I'm still on these asteroids.
I don't know how it happens. A wide open
I
table,
must have
three
flew on a lot of
lots bloody
asteroids
table,
over the
and
years.
of asteroids.
But I used to play tons of X-Wing, and it was nowhere near as arbitrary as Gaslands. I got Gaslands thinking, oh, this is going to be a lot like X-Wing, but with cars and stuff. No, it's not.
Well-
I mean, and even if you base, even if you go with the bases, well, my buddy, he likes monster trucks. He's Randy.
Oh, of
Randy
course he
loves
does.
monster trucks. So Randy will show up
Call
with a
out
monster
Roddy.
truck like this big, and everything else is like, I'm like, well, maybe we should have, but he likes this truck, and he bought this truck, so this is what he's going to use for his monster truck. And now the monster truck's moving 37 feet across the table on each movement, and running over everything, but it's just funny, because if they would just say, okay, this is the maximum size, or this is going to be these two size bases, and that's it. And then everything has to fit on those bases, or really you shouldn't use it, or just use it for fun or whatever. But it would really take a lot of the arbitrariness. Is that a real word? Arbitrariness.
It is now.
It is now. Put that in your Webster.
Put that in your Webster and smoke
Yeah,
it.
put that in your Webster. I just think that I think it takes a lot away from the gameplay in Gaslands, because it's just too arbitrary with too many different things. And it's not just the movement templates and the cars and the different sizes. It's other stuff too. But I don't want to beat up on you, Gaslands, because I love you. But
and that's what I think. Sitting down with the group of people that you normally play, because luckily Gaslands isn't a very tournament.
No, thank God, because I would be like,
that's much more of a beer and pretzel game where you're playing
Right.
with a certain group of people, and you can make it work.
Get away with it.
Yeah. Only you just play it for fun. But I mean, still, even then, it's like by the end, I'm like, oh God, I don't even know what just happened. Like this blew up.
Well,
and
then
that
you
blew
leave
up,
the game thinking,
and
how are we going to fix this?
Yeah, how are we gonna? That's what we did,
that's what
and
the
then we
show
tried to make rules, and they didn't really work that well. And we're like, well, let's just put the matchboxes away for now.
Let's go to another game system.
Yeah, let's do something else now that has real rules. No,
The tough
I'm
part
sorry,
about
Gaslands
that
again. I'm sorry.
is any game system that I've played where I've had those type of games where I'm kind of confused about rules. I go home and sit on a couch that night with a drink, and I read the rule book. Well, if you have those questions come up, you're like, oh, you know what? Then I'm texting whoever I played that night and saying, hey, maybe next time we should do this, because
Or, hey, we did this wrong.
Yeah.
Look at this page. We missed this one. Or, we've gotten, Justin and I have done several of those after games.
Battle Valor.
Battle Valor is a great example, and I love
Not to
Battle
beat on
Valor.
that, but yeah.
Not to beat up on
We'll
it,
we'll
but-
eventually do some
I
battle
don't know,
reports
I'm
on
not
that. That is
don't-
an awesome
I
game
haven't
system,
played that
but
yet.
it's a beast in itself.
Yeah, I mean that, and I've played some grunts. I haven't played with any of these guys, but I played some grunts games. That's another one. The rule book is like
That's
this.
on my painting table right now, by the way.
Jeez. But it's like you really have to read through the rules, and it's multiple steps and everything, and that's where some homebrewing, you can do it in that, and it's actually built into the rules to homebrew.
Yeah.
But oh my God, you need a notebook just to do it. And
Yeah. Highlighter at the start.
Especially with
town.
runs. They talk about there's like four or five different ways you can run activations and how you do it turn by turn. Which is great because we're going to say we're going to use the card activation. We're
I'm
going to
not
go somewhere
familiar
else.
with it at
Yeah,
all,
and they're
so
going to say we're going to use this activation.
but it sounds like it's kind of a headache.
sometimes it
It's
is.
a very it's a rules keeping or it's a bookkeeping type of game system, but it's very fun by the way for those.
Well, if it's fun, that's the thing that matters.
Right.
You can. I mean,
that's why you tweak the rules to fix the broken stuff. So we're back on prods again.
Tweak it for yourself, right?
So, yeah, I mean, I think we're all kind of on the same page. We all kind of talked. I mean, we're gonna wrap this up with kind of what everyone's overall thoughts are on homebrews. As far as do you like?
already started.
Don't like? I mean, yeah, I think thumbs up generally. Overall a good thing. Overall a bad thing.
Oh, there's a place for it. There's always a place for it.
Should I have the caution
Maybe not
warning
every
label
game,
fly up here about where to be careful with them?
I don't know. Like as a laid back basement gamer, not necessarily a tournament gamer. I like homebrew rules, but at the same time, trying to remember them. If you don't write them down, you don't keep them in a notebook.
Create your own FAQ to put with the book.
Which I've had to do on a few of them.
And you play enough systems, you're not going to remember what you did.
You're not going to remember, or you play again, you're like, how did we fix that before?
Oh no, wait, that was that game system.
Right.
We did that. This game system, we do it this way.
But I think they have a time and a place for everything.
I agree.
With homebrew rules, but never when you're teaching a new player.
Yeah, I think that's a big warning.
I disagree.
Oh no.
Yes. I disagree.
That's why I'm sitting between.
I don't want to say maybe not homebrew rules as far as changing lots of things, but some games, if I want to teach, like I said at the very beginning of this, if I want to teach brand new players a board game, say, maybe not a miniatures game if they're going to be playing for the rest of their lives or, for a long period of time or a tournament, in a tournament setting or anything like that, but a casual board game that maybe is a little bit more intricate, complex, and that's why a lot of these games, they have starter rules.
Yeah,
they have starter rules,
Yep.
so that it takes a lot. But some don't. Some don't and should, in my opinion. That's when I would teach players and give them an opportunity to learn and have fun with the game without.
But that's stripping away the advanced component.
It's stripping away the advanced component, but.
It's not
maybe a little more. Well, what I'm saying is maybe a little more than stripping away of the advanced component. I don't have an exact example of a game that I've done that with, but I know I did. I probably where I'm like, okay, well, this game you're supposed to roll for these 5 things first. Maybe we're just going to roll for these 3 things first. That's a very basic homebrew, but it's a homebrew.
I think,
I
think that's
to make it a little easier for people to learn. Now, I wouldn't change drastic gameplay for brand new players and totally change the game because then it's not the same game, and everything.
Yeah.
So, but maybe make it a little simpler and easier to follow, and then slowly the next gameplay be like, okay, I changed this, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it the right way now that you understand how the game's supposed to operate.
I think there's a balance to that, and that is a good point because technically what we categorize as homebrew rules, you're taking away rules that may be it. And I see the pros to that, and I can also balance the cons to that because as the Sarge for Warlord and playing a lot of people in demo games, I have done that where if I'm playing a game and I'm not being super strict on you're supposed to technically have those units 1 inch away, but their head is flooded with so much stuff because they're learning a new game system. I'm not gonna do that. So I've done that, but on the other side of that is then I've played that guy 2 or 3 times later, and I said, hey, by the way, can't do that. You got to fix that. Well, why now? That's never been that way before.
Because I said so.
Yeah. So again, it's that careful balance of maybe pointing out and saying, hey, look, we're not going to do this turn because we have a lot going on, but I'm going to take you through a couple different demos, and by the end of these 4 demo sessions, you're going to have the whole rule set.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good taking away. But yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games where I like when you open up and it's like, hey, I only need these 3 pages to start playing.
Maybe I was
And then-
explaining. Maybe it's not as much homebrewing as it is. Just
No, I think
dumbing it down a little bit. I don't want to
I
say
think
dumbing
it
it down,
falls under
but
rule tweaking, really, because
rule
you're taking
tweaking
the rules away.
Yeah, rule tweaking. I mean, I would
that.
consider it a kind of a homebrew if I'm.
I'll let it slide.
That way. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think. I mean, like I said, it can make some games really fun. But I think we've all said plenty of times, you got to be careful not to get carried away. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're still keeping the essence of the game there, of what you're trying to do.
Some games it'll work well with, and some games it won't work at all.
And I think I have a note here of I think it really shines when you're playing campaigns, and you're creating new scenarios.
Yep.
I think one-off games, even at a club level, I think one-off games it's best to stick to the rule because. Like you said about some people that are competitive focused, they always want to be tournament ready. They always want to play to those standards, and there's nothing wrong with that. And honestly, when I get into a tournament mode, probably about 2-3 months before tournaments, I'm in that mode where this is what we're doing. But I think when we're creating new scenarios, I think it becomes really fun, and that's where the home rule of, especially for historical games, I'm getting into Epic ACW by Warlord Games. And the Glory Hallelujah book has lots of cool scenarios. But as a huge Civil War lover, and as a reenactor for years, I'm going to end up creating some scenarios based off of the actions that my reenacting unit has seen. So I'm going to have to create that kind of stuff. And I think that, to me, that is where these things shine in a homebrew rule shine. And just be careful of where you're using them. So I think that's it. Again, 3 humble but expert opinions on homebrew rules. Let us know what you guys think, which we're going to play into the next thing here. So I'm going to do, CLG is going to do a little bit of a contest time. I call it a contest, but it's not really a contest. There's no voting or winning to losing. It's going to be a draw of a hat. This is going to be specifically built around bolt action. The reason being what we want to do, and I'm going to get into the rules and everything here in a second, but we want to hear your guys' homebrew rules specific to bolt action. Rules tweaks that you make, significant rules tweaks that you guys make or that you play there. What we're going to do is we're going to
fixing those machine guns. We want to hear about it.
Yeah. So here's how you're going to enter basically, and don't mind me while I look down at my notes because I have a lot to read here. You're going to basically email your name. Along with that, if you give consent for us to use it on camera, or if you want to stay anonymous. Some people maybe don't want their name read or posted or anything like that. And that's more than perfect, but you have to give us your consent to be able to read your name on camera. General idea of where you live, like a state preferred. If you want to get more specific, great. The reason why we're going to ask for that is because, like we talked a little bit about areas and different metas per area. I'm really curious to see how many people write in, and if we can kind of see bubbles of rules. Because here's the thing: is we live in Pennsylvania. Well, if you're a serious gamer in Pennsylvania, you're going to play in Virginia, New Jersey, these different tournaments, and sometimes you have these TOs that make these special things. So I'm just kind of curious to see what the meta is. So give us your general area, state, whatever it may be, and then the rule you want us to try. So it must pertain to bolt action, and it has to be a fairly easy add or change that can be explained in a few sentences. So think of like if you're running a table at a convention and explaining to newer players, and it won't take loads of bookkeeping or tokens, or hey, we changed this one rule, here's 5 pages on how you play that rule. So the basic rule you use, again, a lot of people, the ones that come to mind right away for me are machine guns fixes. A lot of people fix those. There's a lot of people, and I've actually just had this discussion last night, that say with bolt action you can advance and shoot. Why can't you shoot and then give an advance order using the shooting penalty?
Good point.
So if I'm in an open field and moving forward, and I know I'm going to be able to get behind that barn, I'm still going to want to pop some shots as I'm going.
Would that create, would that create more issues, or would that be something that would actually be a lot more strategic?
Which plays into
that's pretty interesting.
Which plays into why we want to do this contest or this little thing here.
Break things,
Right. So simple as that. Email us to colegiongaming@gmail.com. I'll put it here, and it'll also be. What are you doing that?
Right there.
No, I'm concerned. Hey.
Right there.
No cupping the Colegion. And it also, You can always find us on Facebook that way too, but I prefer email to coldlegiongaming@gmail.com. Your name, if you give consent, your general location, and a rule you want us to change. Basically what we're going to do, and also a small explanation of why you use it, what you guys found, why you decided to do this. Hey, in our game system, this gets muddled, or we find it streamlines this, or we find it makes it more fun or more balanced. Give us a little brief explanation of why you're doing that. Email out to us. We're going to basically run it until most likely the end of August. One, that gives plenty of people time to enter. It's middle of June now, plus I'm going away for school for the whole month of August, so I'm not going to check emails anyway. So we're going to let them run out. Then we're randomly going to pull 1 to 3 names out of a hat based off of how many people enter. So if we get a whole bunch of entries, we'll pull 3 to 5 out depending what it is. All we're going to do is put names into a hat, pull that, and then look at a chart to see what your rule is. So we're not picking what rule we want to
Winners get a brand new car. No, just kidding.
All Soviet
Don't
rules.
you have a Mustang that you want to give away?
I have a couple of Mustangs. And no, I like them.
So what we're going to do is we're randomly going to pull that name, check to see what their rule they say it is, and we're actually going to play that game on camera using said rule. So I'm going to enlist somebody else, and we're going to do a battle report playing bolt action using that rule.
And you'll be famous.
You
Pretty
will
much.
be. All the dozens of people that watch our page right now.
Gonna be famous. Might as well do it now.
So I'm trying to read my sticky notes.
Off track there.
So what we're gonna
That
do
will be edited.
is cut. What we're gonna do is we're not gonna change our list drastically from what we normally play. So we're not going to super cater. The only time we're gonna do that is if it pertains to a specific unit. Again, if we pull the machine gun one, which I'm sure we'll get something on that, we'll make sure that the 2 people playing have a machine gun in the list to test that out. If it's based off a certain scenario,
I'll have 3.
we'll make sure we're playing that scenario.
That's US. I'll have 3.
So maybe
Make
the
it
US won't
good
be
because I
allowed.
get 3. I'm a power gamer.
What we're going to do is we're not going to drastically change our list because we don't want to influence how that rule is played. And so we're going to play that out. And then what we're going to do is, even if it's 1 to 3 names or 3 to 5 names, we're only going to play, it'll be a series of battle reports. We're going to do one rule tweak per report because, again, we don't want to get into, now we're playing 5 different rules and we're playing a completely different game, and now we don't get to really dive into that one rule that you do. And we'll play that out on the table, recorded, post it up, and we'll give kind of our thoughts as, for the most part, unbiased because it's not our rule of what we think of how it is. Now, it's probably a rule that we've probably discussed around the table at one point or another anyway.
I'm going to judge.
But
I'm joking.
It's very judgy. And we're going to play that out. What we're also going to do, as a little incentive, if your name is pulled, I'll reach out to you. Obviously, you'll email me so I can email you back. And we're going to give you a little CLG swag. So we have...
And a brand new car.
And a brand new Mustang from Barry. He will do the
I don't even have a
transfer.
brand new one. Come on, guys.
We unabashedly throw our logo on everything. So we have dice. We have somebody who has access to laser cutters. So we have some really cool specific blast templates. We have some objective markers. We have a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, we'll contact you and see what you want. We'll give you some options. And
You want the
pick what
goodies? You know what to do.
Yeah. Email us.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Don't even.
You can only pick one rule. So if you email us with 5 different rules, you're going to be disqualified right away because we're not picking your one rule out of your list because we want this to be unbiased. So same thing where if you send me one email and then 2 days later you go, oh wait, no, I want you to do this, disqualified. Take some time, think of the rule. I don't want to have to go through 50 emails for 3 rules. And send us the email on what it is. We'll play it out, we'll do a bat rep, we'll discuss it. What I would also like to do, if the stars align and I can actually get the 3 of us on the same schedule as I was able to tonight, is at the very end of the series, I'd like to do is sit down and compile all of the emails we get, all the rules we get, and just kind of compile them and give a thought and say, hey, you know what, look, 20 people have written in about the machine gun, 5 people have written in about this, and kind of just maybe look at the areas.
See if your ideas match ours as far as what we feel, need changed in bolt action.
We're gonna play a game. It's called Are You a Power Gamer or a Basement Gamer? Based off your rule set.
I can be either, really.
Yeah, we and I.
No, I can. I need to win all the time.
You and I have played some really fun, relaxed games.
Yeah, we have. You know what
you've said once
hey,
you've left the table, I don't know.
No. Hey, even when I lose, what did I win? I won a glass for.
Yeah, how'd you win sportsmanship? Didn't you
Best
win
sportsmanship in a tournament.
All
Even
right.
when I didn't win.
Another side tangent.
See?
When I do my bolt action tournaments, I always do sportsmanship points, and best sportsmanship gets a pint glass. Out of like the 5 years I've done it, I may have muttered under my breath, "How did this guy win it?" He was one of them.
Last time I didn't win it, and somebody almost got it. No, I did. I won once though.
So
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's the contest rules. It's pretty basic and simple. Like I said, we just want to play some stuff out. I have some really cool homebrew rules that I want to try on camera. I'm curious to see if anyone else writes in about them. If not, I may just pull my own name out of the hat on a separate series. But I really want to try some fun things.
That's how he operates.
All sixes.
Let's see. 30 names in here. Everyone is Justin. Justin. Oh, it's Justin again. Oh, look, it's Justin. You just ordered making them.
I did need more dice in my own collection, so I'll just pull from the swag.
Make some more of those six-sided sixes on the dice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Except the
there's
CLG.
six. There's another six. There's another six.
CLG dice. I don't know if I like how they roll, but I'm not going to say that because I want to give out the swag.
I gave mine away. No, I'm just kidding. It's all the money back. No, I didn't. Or did I?
Or did you? So that's all we got. We've rambled on long enough.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having. Do the obligatory like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Comment on here what you think. I mean, don't. If you're gonna comment and say, "Oh, we use this roll," you should probably just email it to us so you can get yourself enrolled in that contest.
Swag, yeah.
Get some swag.
Miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
For a brand new car.
It's gonna be a mess.
Do you know how much like disclaimers I'm gonna have to put on your
It's not a real car.
area is full of BS. Please do not listen to this. Shitsu not.
Shitsu not.
Shit's awesome. All right, so that's all I got. Anything else?
Nope.
Nope, that's
All
about
right.
it.
We're good.
Have a great
to go.
day.
Yeah, thanks. Happy gaming.
Have fun.
See you later.
And homebrew.